Hello everybody and welcome to our first JASP tutorial. So if you have never used JASP before, and that's going to be probably almost every single person, this is going to basically start from the very top. We're going to be treating it like you've never used it before. So this is what we want to know for Chapter 1's material. We haven't done any calculations yet, really, for Chapter 1, so we're not really going to do that much data analysis yet. Mostly this tutorial is going to get you to install JASP, to open files in JASP, and how to save files in JASP. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is whenever you're in the Start Here folder, you can click the JASP software page. That is going to take you to this nice clean page where you can download JASP. You don't need to sign up for anything, you don't need to register, you don't need to pay for anything. You can just hit this orange button, download JASP. Whenever you do that, it's going to show up in your download trays, or at least I think it should. Yeah, there we go. So you'll download JASP. I'm using Windows, so I'm downloading it for Windows. Obviously, you can download for Mac or for Linux. Whenever you do that, if you're using Google Chrome, it'll probably say, hey, wait a second, this is an unusual file. We're not saying that we can download it securely. That's totally fine. A .msi file is not a very common file type to download for something like this, which is why Google Chrome is just giving you a bit of a heads up. It's not a big deal. You can just hit keep and it's totally fine. But whenever you download it, you can open it up and then you can just basically hit next and install. You can go with the defaults there. There's nothing it's going to try to get you to sign up for. It's not going to install spyware or adware on your computer or anything like that. So whenever you go through all of that, and I would do that myself, but this is actually the second time I'm recording this video, so I had JASP, I uninstalled it for the purposes of creating a video, and then I reinstalled it, and I didn't want to uninstall it and then reinstall it again, so forgive me. But whenever you do that, you'll be able to open it up, and then you'll see something that looks like this. This very kind of plain JASP interface. You'll see that you can't click anything except for this and for this over here, and this is where we want to go. So when we're opening a data file, we're going to want to go to the three bars here, and that's going to give us a few options. We're going to want to go to open, and then we'll want to open up whichever file we are curious about. I'm going to show you how to create a data file for this. So most times, honestly, and this is probably the biggest hurdle for most people that are getting to use JASP for the first time, is that with a lot of other statistical programs, you can type in the data into a spreadsheet. So with SPSS, you can do that. For Minitab, you can do that. For R, you can kind of do that. But for JASP, you can't. And the reason for that is because the majority of data that you are going to be analyzing, you're not going to be typing in yourself. If you're a researcher, if you are an educator, if you're working in the business sector, you're not typing in data. You're actually probably just going to be importing or uploading other data files that you can then analyze. So that's what we're going to be doing. So to give us an example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file here. So you can use whatever spreadsheet editor that you want. I have Excel because I have Microsoft Office, so I'm going to be using that. But you can use Google Sheets. You can use whatever the Apple or Mac alternative is. It's fine. Either way, it doesn't matter. Because one of the things that's really annoying about using Excel is that you know that Excel saves to a very particular kind of file type, right? And you can't open that file type if you don't have Microsoft Excel. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be saving it into a generic file type that doesn't require Excel, it doesn't require Google Sheets, doesn't require a specific kind. You can open it up on any computer. So I'm going to go ahead and create a very quick kind of example of some data. So I'm just going to type in a couple of things here. I'm going to do height and weight. These are all fake, obviously. So I'm just typing in some data. I'm assuming that these people that I'm creating are very tall, and they're going to be super skinny. Alright, that's way too skinny for these people. But, alright, so where do we go? from here. So the reason why I formatted it like this, I've created a table basically, where up here at the top in the first row I have the column names. So these are going to be our variable names. That's going to be always the variable names go at the very top in this first row. And then the subsequent values are going to be our data. So that's the reason why I have it set up this way. And it's going to be true for every single data sheet you see the rest of the semester. That's very common practice for people using stats or doing research. All right, so here's the crucial step. We're going to go to File, we're going to Save As, and where we're going to save this, it doesn't actually matter necessarily where we save it, but how we save it. So I'm going to call this example data, and I'm going to save as a type called CSV, which is comma separated variables. And you can find that right here as comma delimited, which basically means that if you were to open this up in a text file, like Notepad or something like that, you're going to have all the same information. It's just separated by commas. So it's not an Excel file, it's not a Google Sheets file, it's not a Mac file, it's just a generic file that any computer at all can read. .csv. So make sure it's in .csv. Most examples that you use, or most times you try to access a file, if you have trouble with it, is probably because it's not a CSV file. So make sure that you're saving things as CSV and that the files that you're trying to access are also CSV. You're going to see right here, if you're using Microsoft Excel, that it's letting you know that there's some possible data loss. This is basically just saying, hey, wait a second, no, we want you to use Excel file format because that's our file format. But we're saying, actually, we don't care because we're saving it as a generic thing. Now, just in case I'm not going to go off on too much of a tangent here, but just in case, what happens whenever you save it as a .csv file is that it gets rid of the formulas. So if you've created something using different kinds of formulas, so if you're using like at, sum, and you're like highlighting these and it automatically creates the sum of those numbers, that is not going to carry over whenever you do a CSV file. That's just for Excel. So basically you're just saving just the raw data here. All right, so we're going to save that, and I'm going to X that out. All right, so now we have this file. I'm going to open it now. So I'm going to go to Open. I'm going to come to my computer, and I'm going to go to the file where I saved that, which is my statistics folder. It would be awesome if you had a folder just like this whenever you were doing this yourself, just to keep things organized, because if you're going to be working with a lot of data sets, so it's nice to have it nice and as tidy as you can so that things don't get lost, which happens to me all the time. And so you can see here's this file that we created. Okay, cool. Let's open it up. So we open it up and we see very, very clean. Not a lot of frills here. We have student, we have height, we have weight. And you can see we have students 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have the different heights, we have the different weights. Very cool, awesome. And so from here, we can actually do a lot of different things. We can do some t-tests, which we haven't talked about in class. This is what we're going to be talking about in the middle of the semester. We can do ANOVAs, or we can do regressions. These are things that we're going to be doing at the very end of the semester too. So we aren't going to do any of that for now. What I want to show you now for our kind of Chapter 1 activity is to just print out or save some very bare essentials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to descriptives, because right now we're talking a lot about descriptive statistics. So I'm going to go to descriptives, and you're going to see these different variables, and I can put in whatever variables I want to look at the descriptives for. So I don't actually really care all that much about the students because they're just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I am kind of curious about these students' heights and weights. So I'm going to type in heights. I'm just going to hit that over. So you can just highlight that and then hit this button right here and it sends it over. Or you can drag it over, either way. I'm going to do the height and I'm going to do the weight. And so you can see here on the right hand side, it immediately populates that information. So here you can see in descriptive statistics, it tells you valid, which is going to tell you how many different data you're choosing from. So we're doing 5 because we have 5 students, basically 5 rows. We don't have any missing data, which is great. And it tells us the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, and the maximum for these values. We haven't talked about mean, we haven't talked about standard deviation. Those are going to come in later chapters, but it does tell us what the minimum value of the height and what the maximum value of the height and the weight are. If we wanted to, we could actually add more of that stuff in here. So we could go to statistics right here. If you click that open, it gives you a few more options that you can choose from, such as variance or range or standard error of mean, or we could take away the standard deviation and the means that we just have this information right here. We can add a lot of different things if we want to. Anything that we click is going to automatically populate right here. And so that's just how you do that stuff. So once we have this, this right here, we're pretty much ready to save this. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that I don't forget what this stuff is supposed to be. So I'm going to click on one of these arrows right here, and I'm going to add a note. And then down here I can add text, or I can do it up here. I actually usually like to do it up here, but it doesn't necessarily matter. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to do add note, and then for right here I'm just going to remind myself that this is for example purposes only. And you can do that as fancy as you like. You can make it bold. You can add in pictures if you wanted to, or anything like that. I wouldn't get too fancy with it. If we wanted to, we could add in pictures and stuff like that, like we do here. But we're going to be talking about that in Chapter 2. So right here, I have just the very bare minimum, right? I have, this is just, the most basic of what we'll be doing this semester. And then how do we save this? How do we export this? This is what I'm going to be asking you to do for the Chapter 1 assignment. You're going to go to Save As, or actually you can go to Export Results. If you're doing Save As, that actually saves this whole thing that you have here. So it's going to save your results over here. It's going to save your the stats that you have and things like that. But instead, what we want to do is we want to export results. I am going to export this out using the same folder where I saved this, and it's always going to save as an HTML file, which again, any computer can read, so you don't need Microsoft Word, or you don't need anything fancy like that. And I'm just going to save it right there. And so I'm going to close out of this. It's asking me if I want to save. I'm going to say no, but it might be a good idea for you to save if you want to. And now let's see. I want to go to this and try it out. So you see I got all this stuff set up over here, but you see example data.html. I'm going to double click that, and there we go. We got exactly what we had saved. We exported our results. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much JASP in a nutshell. If you have any, or it's the basics of JASP in a nutshell, how to install it, how to open it up, how to export results. As we're going to see this semester, there's lots of different features. This is just the start of it though. So you're going to do something very similar to this in our first week assignment. Alright, so that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, especially if you're having trouble opening files or downloading and installing JASP or anything like that, I don't want you to feel like you're ever behind. So if you have any questions about that kind of thing, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you later. Bye.